Good afternoon. I'm Tim Boaz. I'm the president of the USF Tampa Faculty Senate, and it's my pleasure to welcome you here to the 2018 Fall Address to the Faculty of the Provost. Before we begin, I would like to invite you, as has become our custom at this event every year, to join me in a moment of silence in remembrance of our former faculty colleagues and other members of the USF family who passed away during this past year. Thank you. Well, it's been quite a year. Preeminence, consolidation, a presidential search. I have been here a long time. I can't remember a year when we had so many momentous things occurring all at once. When I first started in the Faculty Senate, I was a bit surprised to learn that the USF president attended almost all of the Faculty Senate meetings. This was quite an interesting experience. I got the opportunity to hear the president talk about issues that were emerging at the university that were important to the faculty. And perhaps more importantly, I noticed that the president listened to what the faculty had to say during these meetings. We had quite a good relationship, I thought, one that the faculty valued very much. I'm not sure this is typical of institutions of higher learning. Over the last 20 years, it's been quite a ride. I don't think any of us would have ever imagined the trajectory we would be on as a university over this time. And I want to express on the behalf of the faculty our deepest gratitude to President Genschaft for everything that she's done for this university. We're going to miss you a great deal. After I became an officer in the Faculty Senate, I also automatically became a member of the USF Faculty System Faculty Council. And in that venue, I had the opportunity to work with colleagues of our faculty colleagues from the other campuses of the USF system. My experience in that venue was that we were all able to work very cooperatively, collaboratively, respectfully, and on a personal level, I'll say I enjoyed getting to know them very much. After the Florida legislature passed the consolidation legislation, I was asked to serve on a subcommittee that's charged with developing some of the plans for how we were going to put into effect the consolidation. And in that venue, again, I had the opportunity to work with some other colleagues from the other campuses. Again, cooperatively, collaboratively, respectfully. In this instance, however, I think it was pretty apparent that those of us from the various campuses had somewhat different goals and certainly different concerns about how things were going to go with the consolidation. In truth, I think there was a fair amount of apprehension on the part of our colleagues at St. Petersburg and Sarasota with regard to how this consolidation is going to affect their culture on their campuses, how it's going to affect their students, and how it's going to affect them both personally and professionally. I can relate to the experience that they're having. I myself feel like I've gone through, at a couple different levels, similar experiences during my time here at USF. When I came here, I was initially hired into a very small department in the Florida Mental Health Institute. FMHI at the time was only loosely connected to USF academic affairs. Faculties were primarily responsible for conducting clinical work and consultation, doing very applied research that was directly relevant to state agencies, and doing continuing education in the community with mostly clinical service providers. Over time, the Florida Mental Health Institute was moved into the academic affairs part of USF. Ultimately, we combined with several departments from the College of Arts and Sciences to form the College of Behavioral and Community Sciences. And expectations for our work changed to where we were responsible for publishing in more high-impact journals, obtaining grants, especially federally funded grants, and doing classroom teaching. Over this time, we ended up developing an undergraduate major, and more recently, we've combined with another department to offer an interdisciplinary PhD program. Along the way, our little department in FMHI got merged into a significantly larger department. So I face the prospect of getting to know new colleagues and facing another change in the expectations. I will say that it was not without some trepidation that my colleagues and I from that little department joined the other department. As it turns out, over time, we were able to accommodate to these things, and I feel like the process ended up reaching its completion a couple of years ago when one of my colleagues from the little department became the chair of this new larger department that we merged into. So I say this to assure those of us in the university that are facing this prospect of coming together and forming one unified university that it's possible to make these sorts of transitions successfully. And as it turns out, along the way, I got a few surprises. I found out I really like teaching. So it had its benefits. This consolidation is inevitable. The legislature has mandated it. It's going to happen. So my very strong hope for the faculty on all three campuses is that they will embrace this transition and perhaps more importantly, embrace the new colleagues they're going to find themselves working with. As a university, we've obviously seen a great deal of success and achievement over the last 20 years, but it only happens if all of us are able to be successful. So it's my hope that everyone will do whatever they can to ensure that all of us are able to be as successful as we can be. We're here for the Provost's Fall Address to the faculty. This is the 10th year of the tenure of Ralph Wilcox as Provost at USF. He came to USF in 2003 as the Vice Provost for Policy Analysis, Planning, and Performance. In that role, he was responsible for strategic planning and performance assessment, and he established the Office of Decision Support. So in short, I think he was busy setting up the infrastructure and honing his skills and putting in place what was necessary in order to use performance metrics to guide our decision-making at USF. Fast forward a couple of years, Ralph Wilcox is hired as the provost of USF, and a couple of short years after that, the state of Florida decided to change its method for allocating budgets to universities within the state university system, and they're going to base these allocations based on how we're doing with regard to a set of performance metrics. Wow. What a fortuitous event for USF. It's like we're in bottom of the ninth inning, bases loaded, 2 outs, and we get to send our slugger to the plate. Okay. So this ended up working out very well for USF. For those of you that have heard the provost speak, I'm sure that you will notice that he focuses quite a lot on these performance metrics. But it's my observation, having heard him talk about these quite a few times, that it's clear that his focus is not so much on what it is we've done. After all, that's what these performance metrics are measuring, what we've already accomplished. but rather his focus is more on what it is we have yet to accomplish and what these metrics are going to tell us with regard to what it is we need to do in order to get there. I have a feeling we're going to hear a little bit about that very soon. It's my pleasure and honor to present to you Ralph Wilcox, Provost and Executive Vice President of the University of South Florida System.
Well, good afternoon. I should say good fall afternoon, because I think for the first time I'm actually delivering the fall address during fall. It's usually late summer, and for those of you who are new to Florida, this truly is fall. It's not yet winter. That's yet to come. But I would like to thank you first for your kind introduction, Dr. Boaz, and for your valued leadership as president of the USF Tampa Faculty Senate. Faculty governance, I think we can all agree, has been a key ingredient in USF's emergence as a global research university. And I'll be the first to point out that it has been the Senate's vision and thoughtful deliberation, as well as leadership's constructive partnership with our faculty, that has proven so vital in advancing USF's academic mission. Before I begin my remarks, and as has become customary, I want to take a moment to introduce members of the USF leadership team who are in attendance this afternoon. I ask that each of you please stand to be recognized, and perhaps we can raise the lights a little bit, and that the audience holds its applause. And this is always a challenge, I know. Please hold your applause until the end. We're going to start off with our amazing deans at the university. Chuck Adams, Dean of the Honors College. Paul Atchley, Dean of Undergraduate Studies. Todd Chavez, Dean of the USF Libraries. Jackie Dixon, Dean of the College of Marine Science. Eric Eisenberg, Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences. Rob Knopel, our baby bull, Dean of the College of Education. Moaz Limayam, Dean of the Muma College of Business. Sri Sundaram, visiting us from the Tiedemann College of Business at USF St. Petersburg. Wonderful to have you with us, Sri. Thank you. Charlie Lockwood, Dean of the Morsani College of Medicine and Senior Vice President for USF Health. And Charlie, I really appreciate you being here. I know you have lots of other things on your plate today, and you're busy. James Moy, Dean of the College of the Arts. Govind Pariel, Dean of the Patel College of Global Sustainability. Victoria Rich, just as busy. Thank you, Victoria, for joining us. Dean of the College of Nursing. When I say just as busy, this isn't to suggest that the other deans aren't busy. But I know both Deans Lockwood and Rich are hosting colleagues on campus at this moment in time. Julie Surovich, Dean of the College of Behavioral and Community Sciences. Dwayne Smith, Senior Vice Provost for Faculty Affairs and Dean of the Office of Graduate Studies. Terry Chisholm, Vice Provost for Planning, Performance, and Accountability. Jim Gary, Vice Provost for Human Resources and Space Planning. Priyesh Mukherjee. Priyesh is sitting on his own here, not feeling so well today, but wonderful to have you here, Priyesh, Vice Provost and Associate Vice President for Strategic Talent Recruitment, University Reputation, and Impact. Cindy DeLuca, Associate Vice President for Innovative Education. Valeria Garcia, Associate Vice President of the USF System Office of Decision Support. Peter Stiling, Assistant Vice Provost for Strategic Initiatives. Glenn Besterfield, Dean of Admissions. Danielle McDonald, Dean of Students. Joe Heiss, Chief Marketing Officer. The way it's looking, I perhaps should ask everyone just to stand. Gerard Solis, General Counsel. Karen Holbrook is with us, Regional Chancellor from USF Sarasota Manatee. Karen, thank you for being here. And Brett Kemker, Regional Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs and Student Affairs. Roger Brindley, Vice President for USF World. Paul Dosal, Vice President for Student Affairs and Student Success. Sydney Fernandez, Vice President for Information Technology. Nick Travinovich, our CFO. Calvin Williams, Vice President for Administrative Services. David Lechner. David, welcome, Senior Vice President for Business and Financial Strategy. And I think just a couple of others that I'm going to add. Alison Watson, I think I saw Alison, Dean of the College of Education at USF St. Petersburg. Wonderful to have you here. And Deanna Michael, who is President of the USF System Faculty Council and Faculty Trustee. There's a reason why I do this each year, and that is so that you can, members of the USF community, can actually put a face with a name. These are the leaders of your university who collectively represent just an amazingly talented group of professionals that I work with on a regular basis and learn from daily. Please give them a round of applause. And of course, it is to our visionary leader to whom we owe so much. As you heard earlier, Dr. Judy Genshaft joined the University of South Florida as our 6th president on July the 1st of 2000. Today, she's in the midst of an unprecedented 19th year as president and continues to deliver the inspiration, the hard work, and tireless advocacy to further advance the University of South Florida. A staunch supporter of our core academic values, she, perhaps better than anyone, has demonstrated the essential role that faculty must play in building a great research university. As Phil Beatty with the Times Higher Education wrote earlier this year, there's this phenomenal energy and drive here at USF. You can see it at the top in President Genshaft, and it permeates through the whole university. There's a real sense of belief, of being bold and agile. I've actually had the great privilege and a pleasure of working with President Genshaft since 2001 and as Provost since 2008. It's difficult to imagine USF without Judy, whose energetic style, dogged determination, and we all know what that looks like in action, and unwavering commitment to our mission and vision have guided us through periods of uncertainty and have set us on what is nothing short of an extraordinary trajectory of success as we look forward to an optimistic future. As you know, the search for our next president is underway, chaired by USF alumnus and generous donor to the university, Trustee Les Moomer. In preparing for this afternoon's remarks, which, as I said earlier, incidentally represents my 11th consecutive address to the full faculty assembly, I took time to reread The Vision of a Contemporary University, a book that was first published in 1982. Co-authored by Dr. Russell Cooper, former Dean of USF's College of Liberal Arts, and Margaret Fisher, it was intended to be something of our university's history, from the opening of our doors to 1,997 students in the fall of 1960, yet it really is much more. It's a fun read. Yes, it represents a sometimes romantic and perhaps rather distant view of USF's early days, where sightings of deer and bear and puma on campus were reported. Scary stuff. However, what struck me is that many of the challenges we and others in higher education face today were also present during USF's formative years, including matters of access and 2+2 articulation with community colleges, diversity and integration, student mental health concerns, and yes, even performance accountability. But they didn't call it that. Just 15 years after USF opened its doors, and I quote, some remarked cynically that productivity had displaced academic work. To others, the assembly line model of freshmen in, graduates out seemed to have displaced participation in learning. How interesting. From shared governance and academic freedom to an accent on learning that meant personalized learning, not training, the importance of interdisciplinary inquiry and team teaching was early considered when in 1958, President Allen, who incidentally was a transplant from up the road in Gainesville, wondered, how can faculty specializing in several fields be organized so as to avoid the dangers of departmentalization without jeopardizing the scholarship and security which comes from close working relationships with others in the same disciplines? And even consolidation, arguably, received a veiled mention by the authors, who wrote, the university's learning network runs through all sorts of other places across the service area. The seconding of faculty to regional centers assures a quality of outreach instruction in keeping with that of the Tampa campus, moving with the mainstream of higher education toward greater diversification and dispersion of teaching and learning. They went on, having become a network for learning, USF also has to learn how to make a network sustain identity and cohesiveness. How interesting. USF's undergraduate preparation was, from the outset, solidly grounded in the liberal arts and sciences, although it would be a full 45 years on from USF's first application to Phi Beta Kappa in 1973 before our faculty would be awarded Florida's Eta chapter of this nation's oldest and most prestigious academic honor society. What is noticeably missing in the vision of a contemporary university is any substantive reference to USF's role as a research institution. Yes, a division of graduate education and research had been created in 1966, along with the first of 6 research centers in marine science, gerontology, exceptional children and adults, clinical speech pathology and audiology, I can see some smiles out there, leisure, and rehabilitation. This in turn led to the establishment of the Office of Sponsored Research in 1972. Yet it appears that research was barely on the minds of the university's founders. Modeled after Clark Kerr's California Master Plan for Higher Education, and I quote, Governor Leroy Collins felt strongly that Florida should concentrate research and graduate study in what he considered to be the leading universities of Tallahassee and Gainesville. You can boo. Governor Collins could not have imagined the USF of today, ranked number 2 in the state and 29 among public universities for total research expenditures, number 5 among public universities for US utility patents, and then he certainly didn't know our president. You see, President Genschaft must be credited with leading USF into the uppermost echelon of national research universities. Today, we know that it will be through our scholarly, scientific, and creative contributions to bettering society that USF will differentiate itself from so many other institutions of higher learning across Florida and around the nation. What the vision of a contemporary university tells us is that while the first 2 decades of USF's history was devoted to building a robust educational base, the most recent 2 decades have built on that foundation in establishing a leading national and international research institution. And so, USF's next chapter begins as we welcome the dawn of a new era. 10 years on from the Great Recession, and yes, I was standing here at the beginning of the Great Recession, these are still not easy times for higher education as uncertainty persists and recent studies suggest plummeting public confidence in our nation's universities, the result of a widespread assault on many fronts, from skyrocketing tuition costs and questionable return on investment to a tendency toward anti-intellectualism, anti-science, and claims of fake news in some quarters, as well as a troubling climate of incivility, heightened rhetoric, and continuing political divisiveness. According to a recent Pew study published in July this year, a majority of Americans believed that higher education is headed in the wrong direction, echoing the results of a Gallup poll that showed falling confidence in higher education from 57% in 2015 to 48% this year. Even though 81% of Pew respondents had a positive view of their local university, a fact that is key to our contention that a great city needs a great university, both Democrats and Republicans had little good to say about our sector and expressed concern that students are not getting the skills they need to succeed in the workplace. Democrats focused primarily on the university as a marketplace, centering on declining public investment, increasing tuition costs, and a focus on private gain over the public good. With annual resident undergraduate tuition and fees amounting to approximately $6,500 across Florida's public universities, and a resident student's average net investment over 4 years at USF after financial aid falling well short of $10,000, the data suggest that we may not be their poster institution. For Republicans, the primary target is free speech and political intolerance on university campuses. A prickly topic indeed, and one which our Office of Student Affairs and Student Success is in part confronting through its Love Over Hate campaign. Perhaps Nicholas Dirks, former chancellor of the University of California at Berkeley, presents it best when he wrote recently, and I quote, "As we defend the university, we must speak out against hate speech. But we have an urgent imperative to open the university up further to new ideas, to more vigorous debate, to more and different types of students, to engagement with the world and to the public more generally, for whom the idea that college is still a public good needs stressing and demonstrating today more than ever. He concludes by suggesting that this means protecting the rights of those who argue against those values that we hold most dear, even when they spew hate on campus. If higher education is to prosper in the coming decade, we must listen to our critics and address their concerns. We can't simply be dismissive. Rather, we must be responsive in reimagining the future of higher education. While the next generation of top-tier public research universities should not ignore the conventional path forward, it's become crystal clear that prior paradigms will not move us to our future destination. As a university shaping the future, we have a significant responsibility to both higher education and society. As the state's third and most recently designated preeminent research university, USF is, I maintain, best positioned, along with a handful of other public universities across the nation, to launch into a new era along its path to membership eligibility in the Association of American Universities, or the AAU. Like others, we will need to take a different path in unconventional fashion and with characteristic velocity. As our students sometimes remark, full speed ahead. This has been a watershed year for USF, from preeminence to Phi Beta Kappa, ranked number 5 among US public universities in the Times Higher Ed's listing of Golden Age universities founded since 1945, and rising a full 10 spots to number 58 in US News and World Report's most recent ranking of national public universities. We find ourselves at the doorway of a new era. Today, we are a widely acknowledged national leader in student success, with a 91% freshman retention rate, up 9 percentage points from 82% just a decade ago, even though we must do better in retaining freshmen in good academic standing. We have a 6-year graduation rate of more than 73%, up 17 percentage points from 56. That 1956 number keeps coming back. And a 4-year graduation rate of more than 60%, compared to just 29% in 2006, each representing the highest performance in USF's history, and at long last comparing well with our national peers. The most dramatic gains, however, are reserved for the proportion of students who are graduating without excess hours. That is, less than 110% of credits required. In 2013, just a handful of years ago, that number was 58%, while for the most recent graduating class, it has risen to nearly 81%, saving our graduates thousands of dollars and accelerating them into the workforce and onto graduate and professional schools. Yet our work is not yet done. Even though we have effectively eliminated the 6-year completion gap for African American, Hispanic, and white students, as well as for first-generation and Pell Grant recipients, a significant inequity continues on the basis of gender, with women graduating at much higher rates than their male counterparts. This is just not acceptable. And collectively, we must immediately take up the challenge and redouble our efforts to better support our male students along a more successful path to graduation. Meantime, while the focus of the state legislature and the Board of Governors has shifted to the 4-year graduation rate, we'll continue to track the 6-year rate, which includes both part-time and full-time students, is essential to our national rankings, and has been approved as our new Trustees' Choice metric, replacing postdoctoral fellows for performance-based funding. Today, as we enroll a higher profile and diverse class of Gen Z students who expect much more of their preeminent USF experience, including equity of access for success, a relevant and rigorous balance of knowledge and skills acquisition, managed costs, along with an earnings premium as they enter the workforce, we will, as an academic community, be rightly held to even higher performance expectations. To this end, I've long wondered why we haven't provided our students with a coherent path to graduation through year-round education. While not for everyone, I think you know that since 2011, we have been proudly graduating more and more students enrolled in our Provost Scholars Program in just 3 years. We have now graduated 5 cohorts of Provost Scholars, each of whom have been required to complete undergraduate research, education abroad, and leadership experiences as they enroll year-round. Beginning in 2019, we'll be offering a Summer B pilot for incoming FTIC students, along with a new 12-week term. The College of Engineering and the Department of Mathematics and Statistics have been at the forefront of designing this 12-week term, and we hope to soon identify other units that see possibilities in better serving their students and our students in this way. We'll continue to improve on the success of our undergraduates, both first time in college as well as FUSE and other transfer students. Today, we owe our graduate student population the same level of focused attention. Graduate student success is one of 3 university-wide strategic priorities that we'll be focusing on in the new calendar year. The others being faculty success and building a digital economy. Significantly enhancing the graduate student experience must be a very high priority for USF. Our students deserve nothing less, and we recognize that a great research university's reputation, both at home and abroad, is so often tied to the experience and the accomplishments of our graduate students. This multi-year initiative will focus on recruiting a highly talented and diverse cohort of graduate students at the master's level to meet the needs of the advanced workforce, professional, and research students pursuing the PhD. Creating an academic community in which graduate students can thrive, reviewing current graduate curricula in much the same way that we've done with undergraduate curricula at USF Tampa, with a critical and constructive eye to improvement. Better understanding postgraduate needs such as certificates, nano degrees, and micro master's programs. Reevaluating the nature and quality of graduate student scholarly products, including publications, theses, and dissertations. Strengthening the mentoring of graduate students. Supporting talented graduate students along a timely path to success, and improving the value added of graduate credentials in the professional arena, and enhancing the placement of PhD graduates at the very best universities, as well as in Silicon Valley, the Research Triangle, on Broadway, and Wall Street. Just as important is providing our faculty with the support needed for them to be successful. We will bring greater attention to recruiting, hiring and onboarding, supporting and mentoring, rewarding and retaining a world-class and diverse faculty at USF. This multi-year initiative will focus on improving strategies essential to recruiting top faculty talent, re-examining USF's faculty classification system to ensure that we are implementing an optimal, differentiated staffing model for a top-tier 21st century research university, assessing the culture, climate, and satisfaction of faculty members at USF, identifying and mitigating barriers to enhanced faculty productivity, tenure and promotion for assistant professors and mid-career growth for associate professors, addressing the critical need for expanded research laboratories, state-of-the-art instrumentation, graduate student and technical support, redesigning and investing in professional development and mentoring programs for faculty and academic leaders, including department chairs and deans, working together with faculty to publicize their scientific, scholarly, and creative work, supporting the expansion of national and global research collaborations for USF faculty, institutionalizing prospect identification, nurturing and nomination of USF faculty members for highly prestigious faculty awards, fellowships, and memberships, a requirement of AAU membership, and creating a plan to competitively reward and compensate faculty success at a level consistent with that of our national peers. Most important and essential to elevating USF's stature and reputation as a national and global research university is the quality and impact of the faculty's research, scholarship, and creative portfolios. With our designation as a preeminent state research university, and this is a recurring theme, the bar has been significantly raised. We must expect more of ourselves and of our colleagues across the wide realm of research. It is true that last year total sponsored research expenditures climbed 3% over the prior year. Federal sponsored research expenditures were up 4%, and we saw an effective F&A rate creeping above 19%. It's not enough. We are continuing on a positive trend through the first quarter of this year, yet there's more to be done. Just as important as funding, however, is the impact that the published work of our faculty and students has throughout the international academic community. As we move from a national to a global stage where research funding is often considered to be less significant, we must place a renewed focus on citations. Important across all our disciplines, from the arts to medicine and the humanities to engineering, peer acknowledgement and utilization of scholarship conducted at USF to inform the work of others is a powerful measure of an institution's impact. Today, more and more scientific and scholarly outcomes are the product of collaboration, and we know that co-authored works tend to be more highly cited. The National Academies have fostered the idea of convergence, that being the integration of knowledge, tools, and thinking from multiple disciplines and across sectors to tackle complex challenges. You develop a sense of my appreciation of history when you see from whence I draw. Sir D'Arcy Wentworth Thompson early recognized the power of this approach when, more than a century ago, he wrote, and I will read, "If you dream of future discoveries and inventions, let me tell you that the fertile field of discovery lies, for the most part, on those borderlands where one science meets another." Most important, as the State University System of Florida prepares to present the legislature with a model for investing in academic and research excellence, framed around three big ideas: healthy Florida, secure Florida, and prosperous Florida, we would all do well to pay careful attention to how USF's faculty might best collaborate in contributing to serve the state's future. It'll be especially important to map USF's strategic research strengths and priorities, simply stated as brain, data, heart, security, water, and translation, against those of the state. As a comprehensive research university, the responsibility lies with us to create an institutional culture and to build the mechanisms necessary to encourage, promote, and reward convergence. Our third strategic priority, to be formally launched in January, is based on the recognition that USF's future success, and indeed that of any great university, will in large part be dependent upon a comprehensive, robust, and responsive digital ecosystem. As Tom Friedman has shown us in his book, Thank You for Being Late, digital innovation is accelerating at a pace unknown in earlier times. We all feel it every day, and we must find a way collectively to adapt at a faster rate in order to remain relevant. From helping to secure a safe campus environment, to strengthening student, faculty, and staff talent acquisition, supporting faculty assignment and evaluation, to facilitating access to success in student learning, advising, timely progression to graduation and placement, enhancing business and communication practices, including branding and marketing and elevating research productivity, USF, like other top-tier research universities, will necessarily become reliant on an integrated system of data tools and analytics to inform and support our institution's strategic path forward. This will become even more important as a consolidated USF competes with a new tier of peer and aspirational peer institutions, most of them well established and just about all of them better resourced. Yes, you may have noticed that I just slipped in mention of consolidation after focusing almost exclusively on USF Tampa until this point in my remarks. As you know, following passage through legislation earlier this year, the USF Board of Trustees has provided us with an important set of principles to guide our plan for consolidation, a plan that will lead to one university geographically distributed across 3 campuses, with a shared mission under a single regional accreditation by SACS. One that strengthens our stature as a preeminent state research university and puts the needs of our students and our communities foremost, all by July 1 of 2020. An easy task. The authors of a recent TIAA publication noted, and I quote, "The decision to consolidate or merge institutions is never an easy one, and the process is nearly always painful and costly." While we might wish that we had shared that publication with our elected officials a year ago, it is what it is. And I know that while many of you have felt the pain firsthand, because I know you are intimately involved in the planning process, I am absolutely confident that consolidation will eventually come to represent a win-win-win for our students, our communities, and our university, as together we work to make the borders between our campuses and the world at large much more porous. To be clear, this is not about compromising on preeminent performance, whether by students, faculty, or staff, but rather holding ourselves and one another accountable to a consistently higher academic value proposition for all members of our USF community, whether their home campus is in Tampa, St. Petersburg, or Sarasota, Manatee. Consolidation is about leveraging the distinctive and unified strengths of all 3 campuses. Importantly, throughout the process of consolidation, we must remain disciplined and laser-focused on strengthening our position for performance-based funding, preeminence, and AAU eligibility. And so, as we witness the dawning of a new era at USF, one that rightfully places us alongside too much older state research universities, with a singularly accredited university on the near horizon and bold ambitions ahead of us, we might argue that just 60 years on, our work is just beginning. Today, as we stand proudly at one of this nation's most dynamic public research universities, an acknowledged leader in student success, and a model for higher education rigor and relevance in the 21st century, I urge you, perhaps like no other time in our history, to hold true to our core values, as collectively we champion academic excellence, advocate for freedom of inquiry and expression, actively support unfettered and civil discourse, all while recommitting ourselves to seeking both truth and innovative solutions through discovery. In closing, I know of no better message than that shared earlier this semester by President Genschaft. She reminded us, nothing has ever been handed to us. We're not entitled by land grant. We're not bound by storied traditions. Everything we have achieved, we have earned. At USF, we shape our own future.
I'm a faculty member at the University of South Florida.
As USF Bulls, students and faculty like myself, We share a common belief and common values.
We solve world problems, conquer the unknown, and impact the global community.
We define ourselves not by a name or a city, but the impact we have on the world.
We share one goal. We transform lives.
So in closing, I thank you for the continuing privilege of serving you as USF's Chief Academic Officer, and I wish you all a very, very happy Thanksgiving holiday next week and invite you to join us in refreshments outside and to receive your hard-earned, anyone that endures the Provost for the best part of an hour on a Friday afternoon earns a golden bull. Thank you.